Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Trinity, where we talk movies, games and TV shows. I'm Kieran.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Tula.
Today we're going to be talking about Priscilla, the latest movie. Well, maybe not the latest movie, but the latest movie that we've seen.
Yeah, well, do you know what? We're not too far behind, because what day is it today? 15th. It came out on the 1st of January in the UK.
Right.
So I think we've done pretty well.
That's not bad.
To see it when we did.
It's our first movie review of this season, I think.
No, I was in 3 episodes or whatever it is, isn't it?
I don't remember yesterday.
Yeah. I think that we should all praise this film for being under 2 hours long.
Yes.
This is the first film we've seen in ages where it's not been the longest film in the world.
Yeah.
And I appreciate... I mean, it could not have been any longer, I think. But I really appreciate the fact that it was under 2 hours.
Yeah, so I mean, Priscilla is the film that follows... Basically, it's based on the memoir by Priscilla Presley about her relationship with Elvis. So it's like a peek behind the curtain, sort of what their relationship was like and how... at the end of the day, it's not a very pleasant film to sort of watch because their relationship was very... just wasn't very nice. Like, they weren't... they were kind of like madly in love at a point, but then also there was just a very dark side to it. So, yeah, I think, spoiler warning here. Obviously, it's based on true stories. I feel like, it's not from the offset. Yeah. We'll just get into it, I think.
There's nothing it's not like there's major things that happen. Yeah. Nothing really major happens in the film. It's kind of just like a build-up, and I think that's the point. Like, there's not necessarily like one big thing where Priscilla snaps or Elvis snaps or whatever, and, there's just lots of little things, and it's those things that accumulate into one.
Yeah, well, it's basically just the start, middle, and end of their relationship, isn't it? Like, there's no... I was a bit surprised there wasn't, like, a text ending kind of thing. Like,
yeah, we do
it's
love
probably,
it, don't we?
It's just the thing of, like, I guess, like, a biographical movie kind of gets spoiled. Like, I thought it was going to be like, Priscilla Presley went on to do this, and then Elvis died, But no, it's just sort of like, she got out. That was it, really. I think, general thoughts first. What did you, feel coming out of the movie after you saw this?
I don't think that you can sort of watch this and really enjoy this film. This isn't a film to be enjoyed, but this is a film to be understood. I think every now and again a film or a TV show or a book comes out that's about something real or not about something real, but it's just important to watch and listen to just understand that perspective. Yeah. Because we've heard so much about Elvis's perspective. He was very, very famous, There was the other biopic about him, he's it's very well known, his story, I think, and who he is. But I think for people, especially our generation, we probably don't know the story of Priscilla and what her relationship was like with him. And I just think it's important for stories like this to be heard every now and again.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. This is not a movie to be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. If you want to have, I really want to watch a nice movie and have a fun time, don't watch this one. Watch this one if you want to see... if you're interested in Elvis and Priscilla's story and you want to learn a little bit more, then maybe watch this one. But yeah, definitely not one to be enjoyed as such.
Yeah.
There were bits of it that I thought were quite good. Mm-hmm. Two Elvis biopics in as many years is not what I really was gunning for.
Expecting.
Yeah.
And of the two, unfortunately, this one wasn't my favourite. But also the other one was more enjoyable on the whole because it had more of his songs, and I felt like it was very different tonally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So in terms of enjoyment, I enjoyed the other one more, but also this one wasn't meant to be enjoyed. So maybe that's the kind of dilemma there. But
it's probably giving you what it was supposed to give you. It's not supposed to give you enjoyment, but you're just supposed. It's just here it is, and you go, God, actually, that's that doesn't seem very good, does it? Or there's relationships out there like that, or that's a little bit weird, whatever. That's it serves its purpose, I think, in that way.
Yeah.
What about you, Michael? Do you think it's boring?
Kind of. I think so it was one of those things like we only really went to go see it because you wanted to go see it.
Yeah, I did,
kind of had no idea going into the film what it was going to be like. Like there was hardly any promotion for it, so like you kind of just go in with a vague feeling of like this is about Elvis's wife.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I'm honestly surprised that you guys came to see it with me. I thought it'd be one of those things where I'd be like, oh, I really want to see this film, and then you'd just be like, oh,
That's because we're here for you, dear viewer. We want to give you our thoughts on the newest movies coming out this year. January is like such a dry spot for movies. It's kind of like where your tail end of like the awards films go out to like, you know, in like the UK especially, it's always like, here's the awards films, watch them now, and then you'll be prepared for the BAFTAs and Oscars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I didn't really know what to expect going into it. So when it like kind of kept with like the darkness of their relationship, you know, between like Elvis and Priscilla, because the Baz Luhrmann film, the Austin Butler like film, kind of touches upon bits, but then obviously it's very stylized. It glorifies Elvis like a lot. And it does like show his dark side as well, like his drug addiction and stuff. There's not much emphasis on like him and Priscilla to memory. There's obviously them like breaking up in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like a bit where he's on a. I don't know if this would. Yeah, I can't really remember much of the film, but I don't know if there's a bit where he's like on drugs and he like fires a gun in his hotel room, and that kind of pushes Priscilla to be like, what are you doing, kind of thing. I don't know.
I can't really remember much of the Elvis films. No. I didn't really like it, did I?
We kind of thought it was alright, didn't we? Like
preferred Rocket Man.
Yes.
How many times am I going to say that for the rest of my life that I prefer Rocket Man?
I think it's like a film though. There was some good stuff to like here. I think some scenes.
Do you mean this film, Priscilla?
Yeah, with Priscilla. Yeah, I mean like, you know, it's very. I haven't watched like Sofia Coppola's other stuff, but like if that's like.
Did you say Coppola?
Yeah.
Is it not Coppola?
Oh, we're all saying it different.
What did you say? Coppola? I thought it was
as
Coppola.
In, like, Francis Ford Coppola.
I thought it was Francis Ford Coppola.
That's not what you said, though.
I don't know.
Well,
pronunciations are weird.
However it is, that's her name.
I feel like when Elle Woods talks about it, Legally Blonde, and she says, oh, I even hired a Coppola to direct my admissions video. She says Coppola, which I think is where I've got it from.
Who knows?
I don't know. Let's just not say the name just in case we're wrong.
But yeah, I think the film has its own like sense of style, basically. Like even from like the opening credits, it's kind of a bit like.
I think the film, like itself, and all the shots in the film are really beautiful.
Yeah, I'd say yeah, because even like the opening is pretty much like when it first came on, it was kind of a boring thing to watch because it's basically just Priscilla getting ready, but it kind of has like random shots of her house.
It reminds me of, now I'm thinking about it now. Sorry to interrupt you, Michael, but
I'm used to it.
That's all I do. Do you know what it reminds me of? And my mum's going to be the only person who understands this, but it reminds me of the beginning of Endeavour and episodes of Endeavour, because what happens is there's just shots of Oxford or the university or somebody eating or but it's kind of giving you just like little glimpses of where the story's going to go, and then it flashes up with the people who are, this short levels of whatever, directed by. So it's kind of like that because it's just little bits of thing with the titles kind of like interspersed, and that's kind of what it's like.
What you're saying is it's a better version of the Fool Me Once intro. Is what you're saying?
No, not at all. That is completely different to what I'm talking about. That is like a not theme song or like entrance, like title sequence. That's different. This is the actual program. It's not a title sequence. It's the actual program. But that's just how it starts. It's very, very different. Two very, very different things, Michael.
You.
What can I say? So I think let's get into. So obviously that's all of our brief like thoughts of it. So yeah, film kind of starts out. I mean, again, so I feel like Baz Luhrmann's did touch upon like the age gap between the two, but it's very much like
she's 14.
Yeah,
and he's 24.
Oh, is it that much? Was it?
I think I'm just going to double check my facts because I had a look before.
But it basically starts with because again, I didn't realise that this is how they sort of met. Like they're in West Germany. Like Elvis is stationed there for like the army, and Priscilla's dad is like an army captain.
24.
God, okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like weird because it's kind of like one of the army officers comes up to her and says, "Oh, I work with Elvis," and like he's always looking for people who are where he's from to come see him. Like almost like a weird recruitment kind of thing. Like, "Oh, you should come meet Elvis. I'm sure he'd love you.
I'm not going to say what I was about to say.
Okay.
But yes, it was like he was out recruiting these people that, you know,
and then it's sort of like, you know, she goes, meets her. I like the opening of the film because it's almost like, kind of until like Elvis gets introduced, it's almost like, oh my god, it's Elvis Presley. Oh, he's like this hidden figure. And even like when she goes to his house for the first time, it's like, oh my god, that's him. Like, you know, whereas like, you know, it was like,
she knows who she is. Not like she's one of these people that's like, oh, didn't really know who Elvis was, and then all of a sudden he's in my life. Like she knew who he was. It'd be like, obviously not, I don't want to say in a creepy way because I imagine this is how it happened. It'd be like if like a girl was a fan of Harry Styles and like one of Harry Styles' mates said, oh, do you want to come meet him? You know, come to his house and meet him. But like she wasn't 14 and he's like 10 years older than her. Yeah.
But it's kind of like that mystique almost, and then like, you know, they kind of get to know each other, and it's kind of like this weird, even like from the offset, he's kind of a bit controlling because he has to like, they kind of start to fall in love, or they kind of have fallen in love. She gets like infatuated, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think she is infatuated with him, and he just needs somebody who is just there. It's like, what I got from it is like, you just stay there, and when I need you, you're there.
Yeah,
because you love me and you're there.
Because he's like, because he's like at one point when he goes to like the States, isn't he? He's like, oh, don't you change? Basically, like, don't you change one bit? And it's just this weird. And then, very weird. Well, I don't know what you thought of like the
very, like, I mean, is grooming behaviour.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And obviously she's infatuated by him because it's Elvis who is like the most popular person in the world at the time.
Yeah.
She's taken an interest in this 14-year-old girl, nobody, if you will.
Yeah.
From like what's Texas now in Germany, and she's like, oh my god, Elvis likes me.
Yeah.
You know, so it's.
And he needs me. Yeah, that's what she says, isn't it?
I like the bits where, because it kind of does it a couple of times, where she goes like, because she's obviously in school, so it's kind of like she has this fun time with Elvis, and then it's like her at school thinking like, you know, kind of like drawing in her book, sketching, and being like, oh, I really miss him. Like, oh, I want to be back. And it's like the late nights as well, like get to her, like obviously she's out partying with Elvis all the time, and he's like, oh, take these pills. Yeah. Which like kickstarts her, like, you know, drug taking, like in his presence kind of thing, and like that gets shown throughout the movie. So it's like a bit of an interesting, just the bad influence he was on her at like such a young age, and just like the weird stuff of like him trying like not convince her dad, but like try and be like, oh, you know, I really like your daughter, I'll take good care of her.
Yeah,
it's really weird, isn't it?
I think it's almost difficult to talk about and difficult to like and just weird, because in any other scenario we could be talking about like a true crime documentary. Like genuinely, like if this was happening, if I was a mother and this was happening to my 14-year-old daughter, or even, you know, it was even a little bit older or whatever, like God, I would be so concerned. And I would be thinking, you know, I'd be ringing the police, you know, it's so strange.
Well, I was saying to you afterwards, and it's like, I don't want to compare the two. I'm not saying they're the same, but it's like when we watched The Reckoning, the Jimmy Savile miniseries, that was like, because he was such a big star at the time, would be like, oh, can I hang out with your daughter? And the parents would be like, yeah, of course you can. You're Jimmy Savile.
We love you, Jimmy.
It's like, you know, it's like that with Elvis almost. Even though like the dad does need some convincing, it's like, look, he's there. I don't care that you're Elvis.
I feel like he respects him more because he's in the army, not because he's Elvis. He comes round and he's got his army uniform on, and he sends letters from the army barracks, and her dad's in the army as well. That's why they're both in Germany. So I think that's why he has more respect for him, because that's seen as especially for Americans, that's kind of seen as like the pinnacle of who should get the most respect, is like military men, isn't it, I think? Yeah,
so it kind of, they obviously fall in love like then, and then he moves to the States, and then it's like they kind of reconnect a bit, because I feel like in the movie it kind of shows like a couple of years go by, and he hasn't like, I don't know if it's like he's ignoring her, but like hasn't obviously spoken to her for a while.
Well, I think he's away doing a film, isn't he? And things just aren't like they are now, you know, where you fly back and forth or whatever, you know, it's just a different time.
And then basically it cuts to, what does it cut? Like she, you know, moves abroad to Graceland, isn't it? Elvis's house, and like starts to live there, sort of on the proviso that she graduates college.
Still school. She's going to go to a nice Catholic school.
Yeah.
That's what they say, and she does go to a nice Catholic school.
Yeah, and it's the film does it a lot. Like when she goes there, it really kind of shows how like bored and like isolated she was when like Elvis wasn't there, because like it's a massive house. Like he buys her a dog, but at the end of the day, it's just loads of shots of her just being like.
There's so many scenes where, or maybe just like one long scene where she's got this dog, she's holding it under her arm. It's a little like Bichon Frise or something, isn't it? It's so cute. I don't know what his name is, but she's holding it under his arm and she's literally just walking around and she's just waiting. Like she's just waiting for something to happen, for somebody else to talk to her, for Elvis to come home.
Yeah.
And that's
sad. That is pretty much the whole movie. It's like she's
and it's like funny because there's some scenes where she's holding this dog, and then all of a sudden, Elvis and his gang of lads or whatever come back home. They all start making loads of noise. Music's playing. They're all smoking. They're all drinking. They're all eating. His grandma's cooking them dinners and whatever. And then all of a sudden, she's like back up and she's alive again. And then as soon as they leave, she's down and it's just her and she's just waiting again for them to come home. And I think like the contrast between her being on her own and then all of a sudden all these men coming in, like that's just
I didn't realise how many sad. I guess it's got to be like real life. I didn't realise the lackeys that Elvis had. Like he had just so many like friends, lackeys, like henchmen, friends, entourage, all these different words.
You're a little source
I know. Who are you? You don't use different words.
I perplexed you. So it's just because it's literally that. Like he's just got his group of lads that he hangs out with all the time, and it's just all like he kind of ignores Priscilla for them, and they're all just like that's the constant group who he's with. He never gets sick of being with them. But then like Priscilla, it's always like I need a break from you. Yeah. These guys
exactly. She's just there when he needs her.
These guys can come with me to Hollywood and I'll film a movie, but you can't. So it's. That's actually the rhythm of the film is just she's alone, he comes back, crap happens, like their relationship happens, and then left alone comes back, and then she just leaves him. But it's just such a weird movie to talk about. Like, there's no real light-hearted bits because even when there is, it soon gets abruptly cut off by them just being like not very nice to each other, or like Elvis not being nice to Priscilla, because it's like a bit where they're like, I assume it was just the context of like they've been locked in their room off their own like accord for like a number of days. They keep getting food left outside their room. They're just watching movies and eating popcorn, and then they're having like taking photos of each other, and then they have like a pillow fight. And then it just ends with Elvis just clocking her one because she hit him too hard with a pillow.
Clocking her one? Michael! Oh, for God's sake, come on!
Who are you? Clocking her one. Jeez.
I can think of the... He hits her.
Giving her a real good wallop.
Yeah.
Well, if it was at the time, I'm sure that's what, whatever.
Yeah. But I think with this film, like, yes, you might, I think you can very easily say that it is boring and not much happens, and it is very like she's on her own and then Elvis is there, and then she's on her own and then Elvis is there. But I think what you've got to think about is the fact that was her life. That's how quickly things happen, and especially when you're in that kind of relationship, things just flip just instantly. Like, there doesn't have to be anything that happens before or after that. It's just a switch is flipped somewhere and something happens, and it's nothing major. You could forgive all these little things, but collectively that's what forms it. And I think that's why things like this are important, because I think if you can watch this and not feel sorry for her, or watch this and think, oh, why does she think that this was bad or anything like that, then you need to sort of look inward towards yourself. And that's why it's important. And I honestly think that that's all that needs to be said. Not to, float my own boat and say that I've like summed it up in a sentence, but you can't really say, oh, that was boring, or I didn't like that scene or something, because it is like,
Well, so I know it's perspective. It's perspective, isn't it? Because obviously this film is not anti-Elvis. It's just, they were.
I mean, people can be both. He can be a great musician and a great man, and also be.
It's just a love story, isn't it? Like that. It's still a love story.
Yeah.
It's just, she's still she still loved him, and like walking away from him was like the hardest thing she had to do, because she loved him, even like even though he had his moments where he was just not a very nice person to be around and like abused her and stuff. And yeah, I was just like, but she still loved him, you know. It's still there's still light in, and the movie does show that they still had good times together. They went out, like he bought her loads of things, like, you know, she had like 3 different guns that she kept with like her wardrobe, and
different
like
outfits,
and stuff, and like, but then also mixed in there is like she had to dye her hair because that's what Elvis wanted. She wouldn't, you know, he wouldn't let her buy dresses that he didn't like. And then like that scene was so weird. Like it's just probably a toxic thing that does happen in like relationships, where he's saying, "Oh, my song's crap," and then she goes, "Oh yeah, I don't like it either," and then he throws a chair across the room, like, "Oh, like, how dare you insult my music? Only I'm allowed to insult my music." So yeah, just like sprinkled in stuff like that, just to be like, yeah, that's really, it's just not getting any better. Like, you know, it feels like it's good one moment and it's just bad, so it's best for, and they kind of like go their separate ways, don't they, for a bit, and then that proves to be the best thing for them, is that, and then that's when she's like, look, I'm just gonna have to leave you, because like,
well, what she says is, he says, "Are you leaving me for another man?" She says, "No, I'm leaving you for a life of my own." How powerful is that?
Yeah, that was good.
You probably don't think that, but
no. It's a very like, it's like, because yeah, it's the truth, isn't it? It's not like she met someone better than Elvis. It's just, it was unhealthy and she needed to get away.
She has to meet herself.
Yeah.
In a way. But can I just say that all props to costumes and sets and everything like that, because all that was absolutely fantastic. Like everything that she wears, I think she was beautiful. When it's like the photos and videos of the at the wedding, you know, there's very iconic pictures, and she has got this eyeliner and she just looks absolutely stunning. She's got some lovely vanity cases, you know, where she goes and she's staying with him, and she's got a little suitcase and she's lifting all her, you know, creams and whatever out. I just think that is all just lovely, and I really appreciated that. Yeah. And I enjoyed watching it.
No, I agree. No, the look of the film was good. Like, it just felt very grounded in that era. What did you... Because, like, you really liked Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. Like, to compare...
All right, let's not get carried away.
Well, I remember when we did our 2022 wrap-up, you said it was one of your favourite films of the year.
Of a pretty abysmal year for movies. I mean, I did enjoy Baz Luhrmann's one. Yeah. Because Austin Butler was so good.
That was going to be my question. Like, in terms of, like, obviously the 2 Elvises like you've seen portrayed on screen, obviously they are the same person, but like portrayed different. How,
I mean, the one in this film was good, but obviously Austin Butler like was just a cut above.
He turned into him pretty much, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he did it so much that like he's still now
his voice
it's not the same as it was before. So I mean, you've got to give him credit for putting in that much work into the role, but they're 2 very different movies. Like I like, you know, you watch this one and, as you say, costumes, cinematography, things like that. Like everything is fundamentally it is good, but it's not enjoyable because of the source material that it's covering. So it's, you know, whereas there are bits in like Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, you know, where he's singing, and then like you get like the scene at the end where it's like him singing one of his songs in Vegas, and then it goes from being Austin Butler to actual Elvis.
Yeah, that is,
and you know, things like that, and it's like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
But at the same time, 2 very different movies.
You couldn't see Austin Butler play abusive Elvis, but you could see him play like superstar Elvis. Yeah, you know.
They showed the different sides of his life quite well, but also, you know, neither one is probably 100% accurate. Because it's for a movie. So certain bits will be changed, and you know, like in a lot of things that we've watched, you know, they kind of shift around time things to suit the movie better.
It's like, it's interesting, like when you see the behind the scenes stuff about like just how the Presley family, because I feel like they did like both movies. Like obviously this is from Priscilla's like view, and she was like one of the executive producers, and it's based on her book, so they're kind of like, you know, she obviously liked it enough to, you know, want a film of it to be made, kind of thing. But then like she really loved Austin Butler as like Elvis, and like Elvis's daughters and stuff really liked the performance of like Austin Butler. They were kind of less so on this movie, but then it's again like perspective. It's like that's not how they viewed Elvis, like their dad, but that's how their mum viewed Elvis, like through, because obviously the kids probably they weren't there all the time, so it's a very weird thing. But like it's almost like both films kind of have the Presley like sign off, like they liked elements of both movies. It's just kind of like a weird. You couldn't watch them like in tandem. It's not like you could be like, right, I'm going to watch Baz Luhrmann's Elvis up until this point, and I'm going to tune in. I'm going to edit in this scene from Priscilla.
Crop it all together.
Yeah, that'd be the weird, because that'd be the most like tonally like just inconsistent movie ever. Just like switching around from like
if someone like edited it to be like an exact
timeline.
God, that would be. I genuinely think I can't think of anything more harrowing than that experience.
Just be like the like him singing "Suspicious Minds" one moment, and then it's just them arguing. Yeah, I just think you couldn't watch. You shouldn't go from like watching Baz Luhrmann's Elvis and think, oh, I'm going to check Priscilla out, and then you'll be like, oh god,
because you're not going to learn it. You don't watch this film to like learn anything about Elvis or even just like learn anything. It's just it's just a story. I guess.
Yeah, it's
kind of like
reminds me of Joker a little bit, because like Joker's not a very pleasant movie in terms of like the source material. It's not like the most fun watch, but it's not like you're going to watch that movie to be like, oh, I really love Joker, because it's nothing really to do with Joker as a character, is it? You kind of just watch it. It's almost like a study of just Joaquin Phoenix, like whatever him playing this character. So like it's almost like in that vein. You kind of go into that film not really expecting that much of a nice time. You still enjoy it in some ways. You
can appreciate it, can't you?
Yeah. What would you score it?
I don't know. I was just thinking that because I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't know whether maybe like a 7. Because I did really appreciate it. Appreciate the performances, appreciate the sets, costumes, the story. But there was times where it did feel longer than it actually was. Even though it's under 2 hours, it did feel a lot longer. And I don't think that I'm not going to rush to watch it again. Like I'm not going to be like, I really want to get a Blu-ray for this or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if it comes on Sky, I'm not going to be like, should we sit down and watch Priscilla? Oh, it was a really good film, wasn't it? It's not really like that. So I think maybe a 7.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it was shot in a certain way and, depicted in a certain way. Like, as you say, like it felt long in parts.
Yeah.
And I think I completely agree with that. And that, like, made me enjoy it a little bit less. But also it's kind of showing that she was in that exact same scenario.
Exactly.
So you can kind of link yourself, like you can kind of empathise with her a bit more.
Yeah.
Because you're a bit like, oh, I'll check my watch again.
It's an ongoing reference.
This is terrible. I need to actually get a watch and it won't be as embarrassing. For goodness sake.
That's too funny.
So, like it did feel long, but it was intentional.
Yeah, I agree.
But also like harped my enjoyment. So I would say like, maybe a 6.5. But, I know that like there are like all the bits within it are good. It's just the way that they wanted the film to come across and kind of the direction of it, while intentional, and I can like appreciate that, made me enjoy it less.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd probably go for a 6 as well. I think it is just, this is purely like other films I can look at, like, and it's just, enjoyment, it does play a big part in it, and it's just not a film you're gonna massively enjoy. But like, again, as you sort of said, it's a story that deserves to be out there, as I'm being told. I had to go just to get out of like the room for a bit, go get like a drink. Not that I was saying, I'm so overwhelmed in this movie, I had to leave. It's more like
it was
it just kind of got to a point where I was a bit like, this is a bit not a bit heavy, but it was kind of like, this is just a bit much, especially because at that time I was kind of like, it's just constant like, she's alone, then he's back, then she's alone, then he's back. I was kind of like, oh god, how, like, where is this film, like, where is it going to cap off, like, where's it going to end? Because like, I mean, by that point she hadn't had a kid either, so I was a bit like, is it going to go up to there, or is it going to kind of be like a cliffhanger, like, oh, what's to come, sort of thing. So I was kind of like, I'm just going to leave the room for 5 minutes, just all vent to the people at the cinema, and then go back up. And it was like, sure, I asked them at the counter, encounter, I was like, how long's left of the movie? And you're like, oh, only like 20 minutes. I was like, Jesus. Like, okay, fine, I'll go up there. And then, it sort of picked up and then obviously ended where it did. And I was like, you know what? It was all right. So, yeah, I think a 6 out of 10 just because of the enjoyment factor. You know, I think, to be fair, I might have given Elvis, Baz Luhrmann a 6 for sort of that kind of felt... That was stylistic and enjoyable in certain parts, but that kind of felt too long as well.
I think they're almost like complete opposites in a way, because Elvis as a film, as you say, is really stylized, very, you know, enjoyable. But I was like, I didn't really learn a lot about Elvis and him. And then this is like, it wasn't really enjoyable, but I did feel like I learned a lot about her and their relationship. So it's like something has to give in a film, doesn't it, for it to have its like desired effect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think my kind of... This is more like the genre in general. I feel like I'm quite done with biopics.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying because, like, obviously we saw a trailer for like Bob Marley's one.
Yeah.
And I was like, that seems interesting. I want to watch it. But also, I watch so many biopics. I'm not sure if I can.
Yeah, I was kind of...
Maybe a couple months.
Could you imagine it being like... I don't know, 30, 40 years time, and there's loads of biopics about people that like a Lady Gaga like biopic or something. Like, when's it going to get to that point? Because it's a lot of people from that time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
The Bob Marley one was weird, like watching that trailer, just because I'm kind of... This is my like trope I'm sick of in movie trailers now, is when they use like a well-known song, but they kind of like make it epic. So in that trailer, it was...
Don't worry.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh, for God's sake. So it's kind of like, come on, can we stop it now? I get what you mean, because we watched the Johnny Cash biography as well. Like, it's one of our Christmas, like, December movie nights we were doing. And, like, that was just because, again, like, how formulaic musical biopics are. It's always starts at the beginning when they're doing a performance, then it cuts back to early on.
Who's the guy that did the video about it that we watched?
I can't remember.
On YouTube. But there was if we can find it, we'll link to it or whatever. But there's a really good video that we watched about biopics and all the tropes and how they go, and it was like really interesting, wasn't it? Yeah,
because it's always like, he's going to do a big performance at the beginning of the film, but we need to flash back to his whole childhood and what made him famous, and then we're going to come back to that moment, and then the movie's going to cap off with, you know, a text saying this is what they did. And it's kind of like, damn, because when we watched that Johnny Cash movie, like, Joaquin Phoenix was good, the story was good, but it's kind of like, I've seen this before, you know.
Yeah, I can guess what's going to happen just because of, you know.
Yeah. So I think, I get what you mean. I'd kind of be interested if there's any other... We might go see Bob Marley, potentially.
I might see it. My mum might want to watch it.
Yeah. So I think that will call it for today.
Let's leave it at that. I wonder how long this has been.
Yeah, but next week we are going to be taking it back a notch, because we do talk about movies, TVs and games, new and old. So we're going to talk about Christopher Eccleston's run on Doctor Who, because Kieran hasn't watched it before, so that'll be an interesting...
Newbie's take.
Yeah.
What's your favourite... Not what? Who's your favourite Doctor?
Yes, comment that below this video of us reviewing Priscilla, the Elvis Presley biopic.
Prepare it for next week.
Spam Christopher Eccleston in the comments.
Peter Capaldi. But I think there we have it. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Cinematic Trinity. But in the meantime, I've been Michael.
I've been Kieran.
And I've been Tulip.